the boogeymen of American politics. One of them is propaganda, and one of them is bureaucracy. And what Robert Horton did was propaganda for bureaucracy. So you can imagine that he was really at the crossfire, especially of people on Capitol Hill who were the conservative coalition, the isolationists, all this happening before Pearl Harbor.
You know, this was one of the best-known agencies of the New Deal, and it's one of the greatest jobs programs in American history. At its peak, the WPA had a payroll of 3 million people. And over the course of its whole operation, which was 1935 to 1943, it provided jobs for 8 million people.
In 1950, that great folk philosopher-to-be, Yogi Berra, was honored by his hometown of St. Louis. "I'd like to thank all the people who made this day necessary," he said. Well, most presidents have found baseball to be necessary, none more so than Franklin Roosevelt. And as we'll see, baseball never found a president to be more necessary than FDR.
So even before the beginning of the Second World War, questions about who would participate in the nation's defense and who would or could care for them were part of discussions between President Roosevelt, civilian and military advisors, and the public.
So Advocating Loverlord looks at 1943 through the lens of the ever-narrowing gap between these two negotiations, strategy and developing the bomb. And that convergence quite likely led to a quid pro quo between Roosevelt and Churchill that, ran through Hyde Park to get there.
But soon Americans would have to decide if the mayor and minister in Plymouth, Massachusetts was right. Were the British sorrows our sorrows? Were their battles our battles? That winter, Franklin Roosevelt and his team of advisors would have to answer those questions.